Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny channel. My name's Ali and I'm Frugal Granny. I'm a 65-year-old semi-retiree trying to do the best with what I've got between having left my office job last spring in 2025 and getting my state pension at the end of July 2027. Today's Saturday, the 3rd of January. I honestly don't know where the time's going at the moment. But today's Saturday, and as I said in my rather late Thursday coffee and catch-up yesterday on Friday, I'm going to have a quick look at my financial goals for 2026. I did a bit of work on them on Sunday afternoon, and they're as good as they're going to get at the moment, and they will give me some pointers to start the year off on the right foot, and I will probably refine them as I go along. If you're new here, you're very welcome. If you want to know a little bit more about me, you can look at the video in the top right hand corner. I made that just under a year ago now, April last year, when I made the big decision to take rather unexpected semi-retirement. And if you're a regular viewer, as usual, I'm really pleased to see you, because none of this would be possible without you. Anyhow, right, goals for 2026. In the video I made about reviewing my goals for last year, I described my goal setting tab on my spreadsheet. And since then, I have refined that somewhat for the goal setting section at the top of the year. I decided to try and remind myself of the difference between goals, aims and objectives, because it's very easy, I think, to get those confused and end up with a little bit of a directional or non-directional maybe mishmash. Basically, there's a sort of hierarchy between goals, aims and objectives. The goal is a more general sort of overarching thing which describes what you are trying to attain or achieve overall. An aim is more like a stepping stone towards the goal, and an objective is what you are going to do to make that happen. That's how I like to try and think of it. I am a semi-retiree who is trying to do the best they can with what they've got, and that is my goal, basically, to do the best I can with the financial means that I've got. And that doesn't preclude trying to better my financial means, or perhaps even look for other ways to increase them. But at the moment, increasing my income streams in terms of multiplying them is not really on my agenda. I have got quite enough plates to spin, so I just want to do the best I can with the income streams that I've got and the resources that I've got at this present time. And the other goal I have is to be able to provide for myself in the present, and hopefully as best as I can in the future. It's really hard to know what's going to happen in the future, but when I talk about the future, at the moment I'm thinking the next 10 years. It may be that my life might change significantly by that time. My health might have declined. I may have to move house, but in the next 10 years, I'm hoping that things will stay pretty much the same, or if things do tend to go downhill, I do hope that I will still have the capacity to manage those. I mean, I have been in discussion briefly with my kids on and off, as when they've been visiting over the Christmas period, about future possibilities, but none of us want to get too morbid at this time. At the moment, the future possibilities are just that. They are, various options that we have started to discuss. But at the moment, I just want to do the best I can with the financial means that I have, and that is my overarching goal. Now, the aims I have in order to try and meet that goal, and this is always a good way to test an aim, is to ask yourself, what does that aim do to help me achieve my goal? And that's relevant in any sort of goal setting or aim setting. exercise. Now I'm just going to read to you from my tab for this year what my aims are going to be. I want to keep to my monthly budget. Now, one of the things I've found over the last 9 months, and I don't think this is surprising considering the sort of transitory period that I've been in over the last 9 months, is sometimes I've sort of overstepped my monthly budget. I've had to sort of dip into the excess part of my supermarket salary or my YouTube income to pay for unexpected things, or sometimes things that might have been a little bit irrational. I mean, like getting Bella. But this coming year, I want to try and keep to my monthly budget. I also, another aim I want to do in order to do the best I can with the financial means that I've got, is to maximise the interest on any of my savings wherever I can. I also want to finish establishing the buffer within my buffer fund. I will link my buffer fund video in the top right hand corner, but I will be talking about that a little bit more when I review my sinking funds in another video. Talking about sinking funds, I would like this calendar year to get the bottom line sort of buffer in all of my sinking funds to the level that they were before I had my chimney emergency last year. I've done quite well recovering from that £5,000 hit, but obviously having lost my office salary, I'm nowhere towards recovering from that I would have been if I had stayed in my job and kept my supermarket job on as the side hustle that it was at that time. Now the supermarket job is one of my main hustles, semi-retirement main hustles. I also want to replenish my emergency fund. I was introduced to emergency funds when I found Dave Ramsey's videos a decade ago, and he advocates $1,000 emergency fund, and ever since then I've tried to maintain a £1,000 emergency fund. I'm not doing too badly at the moment to getting that back to 1,000, but there keeps being the occasional hit that sort of knocks it back down again, and I won't be able to figure out quite how that's going to be replenished until I've got the 0% credit card statement at the end of this month that tells me what the minimum payment on my new fridge freezer is going to be. And I need to admit and confess at this point that I had completely forgotten that when I talked about my fridge freezer and putting it on my 0% credit card, that there's usually a 10% minimum payment every month. I, being in the days I am at the moment, just divided the whole sum by 23 and thought that would be fine. Well, it's not going to be. So I may have to make some bigger payments to start with, and then hopefully once the capital amount is reduced significantly, I can start making smaller payments on that. But I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. We all sort of make mistakes, and I'm too old now to be beating myself up for this sort of thing. And as I did say in, I'm not sure which video it was last week, if it does all go wrong, I have got the savings that I can dip into and just clear that, and it'll be one less thing off my mind, even though it means that my initial aim there of putting the fridge freezer on the 0% credit card was to maximise the interest on that capital in another account. Well, I may have just got that all completely wrong because I've just had too much on my mind over the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to sort that out at the end of January. There's no urgency at the moment. The statement won't come through, I think, till the 22nd, and I've got plenty of time between now and then to try and figure things out. The other thing I want to do is to get my emergency cash fund back up to the value that it was before the chimney disaster hit, and then I bought Bella with some of that money as well. So I need to get that cash fund back up to that limit. The other thing I need to do is, when the tax year comes to a close, is make sure that my tax return gets all of the mess of last year sorted out, and if there's any refund needed, that I get paid that, and if there's anything I owe them, that I pay that. I have been putting aside 30% from all of my social media related income into a separate account, so I've got the money there to pay the tax, and if they want tax on account, there's an extra 10% there that they can have. As soon as we've got past April and I've got the P60s for my annuities and my supermarket job, then I will send all of my books, so to speak, to my accountant, and he can do the hard work for me. We've talked about this before, but I do find self-assessment tax forms a bit complicated and anxiety-making, and so I have an accountant who does that for me. That's my choice. Yes, and then the other thing I really want to do is to try and get my, what I would call mainstream credit card under control. I mean, I wouldn't say it's out of control at the moment, but I have used it a lot more this year than I have in the past. Generally, what I tend to do is use it to, say, pay for my car insurance or a car repair or my house insurance. And then when that payment comes through on the credit card, I transfer the money out of the relevant sinking fund into my spare, or my holding account as I call it, and then I pay that off the credit card. It just helps me manage my money a little bit more, rather than my main account taking a direct hit. So I want to try and minimise the amount of stuff I throw on that this year, because especially in November and December, while I've been doing my stock-up shopping and the Christmas shopping, and there were various other things that got thrown on there as well, there's been a lot going on. It's been quite confusing, and to be honest with you, now that I've had my salary from the supermarket for the last 4 weeks, I've paid everything off there now except for Kitty's end of life invoice with the vet, and that can wait till the end of this month as well. I just want to try and keep using that to a minimum. The only thing I should need to put on there this month is my road tax for my car. So yeah, I want to try and get my use of that card back down to where it was, rather than using it all the time to help me shop ahead, because to be honest, I would rather have the money in my hand and then purchase a thing than putting something on my credit card and waiting 2 weeks for the money. Even though I know that the money's coming in, I think having the money in hand is better. So in that respect, I want to try, once payday weekend is over this weekend, not use that credit card for anything except these big purchases that I need to put on it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I've got 8 sort of aim. I think those are attainable, and to be honest with you, none of those are really desperately new or surprising. I mean, all of us frugal people, we try to keep to a monthly budget. We try to do all these things. We try to maximise interest. We try to maximise savings. We try to keep our sinking funds topped up. We try to keep an emergency fund. Obviously, we all need to get our tax sorted out. And if we have a credit card, we try and keep the use to a minimum. So none of those things are a surprise. The objectives. Now that's getting a little bit more down into details. So let's just have a look at how those objectives feed into my aims. Now, in terms of my monthly budget, I want to, one of the objectives is to review my budget monthly, and that's nothing new. I do that, and I will be reviewing my January budget with you next Thursday in the coffee and catch up. What I would like to do is what quite a few other frugal people do, and this year I would like to try and instigate a few no-spend months. Now, I'm not sure quite how that's going to work, because things do pop up. But apart from my road tax, I think I would like to try and see if I can make January a no spend month. So basically that means that any discretionary funds that I've allocated to myself in my budget, I don't really want to spend those. So I'm going to give it a test this month. I'm not sure if January is a very good month to have a no spend month because it can seem a very, very long month, but I want to try and use what I've got and keep my discretionary funds in place. So we'll see how we go with that. And yeah, that does feed into the next objective, is to use what I've got in the house first. I've not been terribly good at that over the last 12 months. I've been rather focused on stocking up and making the most of bargains, and I still want to do that. But I think if I have the objective this month particularly of using what I've got in the house, then hopefully I can run a few things down to a more reasonable level. And I do want to continue maximising my savings on purchases. And to be honest with you, I think that's the thing that I'm probably going to be focusing on most in terms of keeping to my monthly budget. And to do that, I want to keep utilising the increased discount that the staff at the supermarket get on payday weekend. We usually get 10% discount, but on payday weekend it's 15%. And so I want to continue sort of doing a monthly shop on payday weekend and then just topping that up with dairy and vegetables for the rest of the month. That's going to take a bit more thinking, especially now that I'm on my own and may hopefully not have to get in so much dairy and vegetables, but we'll see how that goes. I still feel that it's very early days. I know that my youngest son moved out in October, but I have had family members coming and going ever since, and so it's been quite hard to set a stable and predictable monthly routine when it comes to shopping for myself. Yeah, the other thing I would like to try and do is save any excess money in my monthly grocery budget and put that towards stocking up next December for 2027. Over the last year, I have tended to overspend on my monthly grocery budget. A lot of that has been due to grabbing meal deals and discounted sandwiches and things at the supermarket where I work when I'm on shift. So in order to try and cut back on that, I need to be more focused on taking a packed lunch with me or just having whatever there is that's left in the staff common room for staff to help themselves. The other thing I want to try and do to maximise savings on purchases is to use top cashback gift cards. Somebody did suggest that to me a few weeks ago, that as I was going to spend the money at the supermarket anyway, why didn't I buy a top cashback gift card and get the cash back on that? Now, I tested that out during the stock-up shops that I did before Christmas, and it worked really, really well. I now feel a lot more confident using the app on my laptop and on my phone. I did a shop yesterday after my shift, and when I got to the till area, I sort of parked myself off to the side and bought a gift card to cover the cost of the purchase and earned myself some cash back, which again I'm going to redeem as a supermarket gift card, so that cash back will eventually feed into a future grocery shop, or I suppose I could keep those gift cards for stocking up. And then the other thing that's new to try and save money on purchases is I've joined the loyalty card Christmas saver scheme this year. I tried to join it last year. Well, when I say I tried, I did join it, but it didn't really work out too well for me. I joined far too late in the year, and in the end I just decided to opt out take the loyalty card points back as vouchers and spend those on my weekly shopping. So now we're at the beginning of the year. I have joined it, and all of my loyalty card points are going to go in that. And you can top that up, I think up to about £350, and you get £12 extra in vouchers if you do 200. So that's what I'm going to aim for. I really can't see the point of putting any more than 200 in there if the amount of vouchers you get in return as extra vouchers doesn't increase. So I'm going to try and just put what some people call snowflake payments into one of my many accounts. I'll create an extra column for that on my budget sheet and see if I can accumulate £200 over the next 6 months to top up my Christmas loyalty card voucher account and get the extra £12 of vouchers. And I've worked out that an extra £12 for topping up £200. I've done the maths. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it is a bit better. It's, well, more than a bit better actually than the interest I would get on putting £200 in a savings account at the moment. But for me, I think the key would be to leave the topping up till the summer and save the money in an account that's giving me interest, and then when I've got as near to the 200 as I'm going to get, then top up. And then hopefully I'm going to get the best of both worlds, a little bit of bank account interest and some extra vouchers. So we'll see how that goes. I may cave in. I want to try not to, because if I put £200 in there plus all my loyalty card vouchers, I should have a significant amount of money towards stocking up next December. And as I've said before, Christmas won't be too big a deal for me next year because it's the partner's family's turn next year. But all of my kids will be not staying with me for Christmas next year, so it will be a lot cheaper. Maximising my interest wherever possible, that's another aim. So what am I going to do to try and do that? Well, the first thing I've got to do, and I've got to do this on Monday or even tomorrow online, is renew the fixed term ISA that matures on the 6th. I was going to take £270 of that interest out and use that towards the new fridge freezer, but I think it probably would be better just to leave it all in there, especially now that I'm so close to that date. Though I do think I've got a 21-day period in which I can change my mind. So if I leave that there, then the interest on that money remains tax-free, so it probably makes more sense to leave it. I've still got a little bit of time to think about that, but that's the first thing I've got to do. The other thing that I've done is I've set up 2 monthly savers, and I think I talked about that in another video called Maximising Savings and Interest. And what I'm trying to do between now and the new tax year is to drip feed some of the lump sum from my office job annuity into a monthly saver, because the interest on that is higher than just leaving it in the savings account that it's sat in. And then when I get to the new tax year and I can put more money into my ISA, then I will move that money into the ISA. But in the short term, I'm drip feeding that into 2 different monthly savers to try and maximise the interest on that. And again, I think I talked about that in my Maximising Savings and Interest video. It does seem a little bit of a fiddle, perhaps for not very much, but over the years I've become a great believer in the accrual of small gains. I mean, I know it really does. All these little bits really do help. I'm going to see how I go with that. It may all be just too much. I may have to stop one of them and just continue with the other. We'll just see what happens. I suspect very much that I will not be able to continue both of those accounts for the full term, or not put the full amount I possibly can in those accounts each month, even if I just put a little bit in. But I'm just going to see how I go with that. Yeah, I've already said I'm going to top up my ISAs in the new tax year. That's to maximise interest, because they've got a good interest rate, especially if they're fixed term. The bank account I've got allows me to access a higher interest rate ISA with the bank that I bank with. So I need to top up my ISAs. And then the other thing I need to do is to keep the number of withdrawals I make from my sinking funds savings account to a minimum, because once I've made 3 withdrawals from any one of those accounts, the 4th withdrawal means that the interest rate on those accounts plummets. And now I have set them up in such a way that I should not need to make more than 3 withdrawals from any one of those accounts in a 12-month period, but I need to keep an eye on them. I think if I just adhere to try to keep it to the basic minimum, that should be enough. And if I do end up having to make the 4th withdrawal from any one of those sinking funds, then that's just life, unfortunately. And I can always try and see prior to that if I can renew the account. I have made a note on the spreadsheet of when I did last renew those accounts, so I can always go back and count along the rows how many withdrawals have been made from any one of those savings accounts if absolutely necessary. My buffer fund, yes, I need to keep topping that up every month until I have the £1,500 buffer. I'm nearly there, and I should achieve that by Easter. I need to get my sinking funds to a reasonable level. Now, one thing I need to do with that is review my sinking funds. I need to go over the amounts that the bills are likely to cost this year and just make sure that the amount I'm putting into each one of them is reasonable. What I did want to do before I left my office job was have a year's worth of buffer in the bottom of each sinking fund, and I need to sit and think if that's still achievable. As I've said before, that chimney incident last January completely cleaned me out, and it really was not funny starting from almost ground zero and then take early retirement. No, it was not funny, and probably not even sensible, but I needed to do it. But I will talk about the sinking funds in another video. I'm going to be topping up my emergency fund every month, and I've also written down here minimise emergencies. Not that there's much I can do if something really is an emergency, but I think there are times when I do make something into more of an emergency than it actually is, and I could think to myself, well, do I actually really need to spend out on this thing? And so I need to be a little bit more careful, I think, this year about what I consider an emergency. Replenishing my cash emergency fund, I've put here top up every month, minimise emergencies and dipping in. Well, at the moment I can't really afford to top that up every month. I'm going to be putting some in this month from the supermarket pay slip that I've just had, but after that I don't know quite what's going to happen. So I'm just going to have to play that one by ear in terms of topping it up every month. But even if I put in £10 a month, that's better than not putting anything in at all. If I do manage to have a no-spend month, then the discretionary spending I would have spent that month on things that are not particularly necessary could go towards building that fund back up to where it was before all the things that happened last year happened. Right, get my tax sorted out. So what do I need to do for that? I need to collect my expense invoices. Can't believe I've lost some of those. Some of them are online, and I need to go through and have a tidy out and make sure I've got the invoices. They're mainly invoices for things to do with YouTube, like the receipt for the iPad stand, the receipt for the gooseneck, the receipt for the phone tripod, and there are a couple of other things as well, and I just need to make sure I've got that information. I really should have stored them away as I went, but there's just been so much going on this year. I am cross with myself about it because usually I'm very assiduous with this sort of thing. I thought I'd got them all in one place. I've obviously tidied them away and I can't find them now. And, you know, what with my laptop getting broken and everything, a few things did fall between the cracks, so to speak. And that information was some of the stuff that I lost. I also need to make sure I download and file the P60s from my annuities and from my supermarket job when they come through, and that will probably be end of April, beginning of May. Right, and then the last aim, wasn't it, was keeping my credit card usage to a minimum, and I've put here as an objective, clear the card after the stock up. Well, I've done that already, which is great. Sort out the repayments for the fridge freezer. Well, I'm going to do that at the end of January. Pay Kitty's end of life invoice, clear credit card. I'm going to do that at the end of January. And still a few things to tie up by the end of January. But generally, I think that it's going to be okay going forward. I really do see this year as a year in which things are going to stabilise and calm down after quite a bumpy ride since the middle of March last year. Hopefully if I can get through January, get everything else, get the last few things tied off. February there shouldn't be much going on, to be honest with you. It's just a matter of holding on until we get to the spring weather. Then March is another month, and then we get to the end of the tax year, and that's when there will be work to be done. But at the same time, I still feel that things are going to stabilise a bit this year. But generally, I think it's going to be okay. I'm very much a believer that if you look after the pennies, the pounds look after themselves. And I think really when I look at my aims and objectives and my sub-objectives for this year, a lot of it is about looking after pennies, and it all boils down in the end to having a sensible budget, setting sensible amounts for the buffers within my sinking funds and sensible amounts for the monthly amount that I'm putting into them. And as I said, maximising savings when I'm at the supermarket. To be honest with you, supermarket shopping really freaks me out these days. I walk around and I see the prices on the shelves and I'm like, how does anybody afford to shop normally anymore? I mean, I can remember the days when I used to go in, I'd do a weekly shop, I'd fill up my trolley, I'd bring it all home, put it away, we'd have a weekly meal plan, and then I'd go and do it all again. And I haven't shopped like that now for at least 2, maybe 3 years, what with the rising cost of things and the constant change in my domestic circumstances. So yeah, there's no point me sort of wishing for that kind of normality anymore, because it's just not going to happen. I very much do live on the basis of stocking up when things are on offer or there's a good bargain, and then living off that in between. And it's a very strange way of doing things. I've lived most of my life doing the weekly shop, and now I'm living totally differently. I mean, the big question is, what would I do if my pantry and my freezers ran down to zero? Well, that's an incredibly good question. I would then have to face up to the prices on the shelves and becoming an even more ardent yellow label hunter, I guess. But thankfully at the moment, I'm not facing that. I've got another year's grace, and we'll see what happens at the end of 2026. Well, I'm sorry if this is not all as tight as perhaps it could be with lovely sort of flow diagrams, but as you know, life's been a bit busy for the last 3 weeks or so, and I'm amazed I've even had time to sit down and put what I have in writing. At least I've got a vague idea of where I'm going now. I have done all the monetary movements for my supermarket pay slip that came in yesterday. Everything that needed paying off is now paid off, and I also moved my monthly allowance from my buffer fund into my main account yesterday. I've paid off all my sinking funds there, so that's all done. I'm just waiting for the payments to my credit card to actually process through. I don't want to spend anything till that's all processed, and I know that the so-called metaphorical financial dust has settled. But today I will go and put £25 worth of petrol in my car, and I am going to spend £25 of my firewood allocation for this month on wood at the supermarket, while we've got 15% staff discount this weekend. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I need to do. I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. I did do a bit of grocery shopping yesterday to get the enhanced staff discount. I put that on my credit card because I just want the dust to settle in my main account from all of this moving about. And when that's happened on Monday, I'll pay that off, and then we're good to go for the rest of the month. So, I just think because of the way the calendar has fallen this year, there just seems to be an awful lot has come together that needs doing all at once this weekend, and I have found it a little bit overwhelming, but I've been working through it steadily, some of it late yesterday evening and some of it quite early this morning, but it is now done. And as I said, I've just got to fill up with petrol, well, £25 worth of petrol, and get £25 worth of firewood, and I have bought a top cashback gift card to do that, and got, I think, 65 pence worth of cashback on the app, which will have to sit there until I buy the next gift card, because I don't think you can take out an amount that's under £1, but that's fine. It's 65p. It's fine. Anyway, I've whittled on enough. There will be a sort of magazine Monday on Monday. I'm not sure there'll be any cooking in it, but I will show you the things that I bought after my overtime shift yesterday to take advantage of the enhanced staff discount. Also, it's time to take down the Christmas tree and just generally reset the house after the Christmas holidays. Anyway, I've gone on far too long. I need to edit at least 10 minutes out of this video, so I hope you have a lovely weekend. Keep warm. It's -2 here, feels like -7, and it really is cold. Chilly round the gills, as my mum would say. And I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye for now.